Though this land is shrouded in pain and darkness, it teems with life. Behold this sacred grove.
All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another League Start and another League Start recommendation video. This league is all about farming. Although we do that in most leagues, this one is going to send us straight to our roots to plant seeds and kill plant monster packs. It seems most of the mechanic here will be multiple monster packs. You're planting your seeds, you wait for them to grow, you wait to harvest them, and these monsters will want to defend. It's not going to be one, there'll be a bunch of packs. Although there are some bosses that will require you to have a little single target, most of these are going to be centered around being able to clear these few packs fairly easily, as well as clearing maps very fast. These league starters are all ones that I'm recommending because I have tested them out a little bit and I've seen them in action in high tier maps as well. Links to these full build guides will be in the description, although there will be slight explanations in the video. I can't, of course, go over every single aspect of every one of these builds today. I will show off the trees, I will show off some example gear, and a few examples of how you can progress these builds a little bit. But for a full description, all the little question and answers will be in the descriptions in each of these forum post guides. The very first, and quite possibly the best league start we're going to talk about first, is going to be Spellslinger. This Spellslinger is going to use Essence Drain, Contagion, and Soulrend. Right here, you're going to see a lot of the gear is absolute hot garbage. Life, res, and you're going to continue seeing gear like this throughout the rest of this build guide, just to show off that, yes, right when you get out of the axe with some weird gear that has just bad things crafted on it, you're going to be fine. I'm showing off some links here. You see the first one was Spellslinger, Contagion, increased AoE. Now we have Spellslinger, Soulrend, Control Destruction, GMP for clear. Want all those little Soulrends going out. Essence Drain, Spellslinger, Control Destruction, and Efficacy for damage. Bane, tempchains, and Despair for extra damage. Tempchains making our chaos damage last longer. And a Frenzy GMP, Despair, Curse on hit, so that our Profane Blooms, since we are occultists, are going to be very, very litty, making everything explode around whatever pack I hit with my Frenzy. We got the +1 curse up there. We've got extra pierce on the tree for our Frenzy, so it can pierce through the pack and make everything cursed, thus making everything also explode, because I do love those occultist explosions. We're going to show off a white map here, but you've seen the tree, it's life. A lot of hybrid nodes, lots of just life, all the chaos nodes I could get, and a little reduced mana reservation by Zealot's Oath over there, just so I could be able to cast everything on Spellslinger, even when I am going to get extra supports to help out with this damage. Now, you see here, there aren't too much congestion with these packs. This would be much better in a super juiced map, but you see it's still one cast per pack. This is how it's going to be all the way from Act 3. As soon as you have 5 alterations, go ahead, kill Gravicious, get your Soulrend reward, get a bunch of Spellslingers, 3 to be exact, and whatever gems you need. Up to that point, you can level as Essence Drain, Contagion. Otherwise, go ahead and do the typical Orb of Storms, Stormblast Mine. You can get Ellie Overload for that little while. You respec it, it's 2 points, and that's a lot of damage while you're using mines. So here, we're going to check out this boss. Single target with this Spellslinger setup is not going to be the main purpose of this build. This build is here so you can clear fast on 3 and 4 links. I have Bane here, I'm going to cast that. The tempchains and the Despair are going to make the chaos resistance go down from Despair, and my chaos damage lasts much longer from tempchains, which really helps out. Here we have our example of Spellslinger in red maps. The clear is still there. We're killing the maps the explosions from being a cultist, having Profane Bloom, is enough to kill the rare monsters that are within these packs as well. Our Soulrend and our Essence Drain damage will pick up most of them anyway. But you see things like Exiles, things like rare monsters, they take a little bit to kill now that we're all the way in a tier 14, I believe this is. The clear is still here though, in full force. It's very easy to clear. Everything is still dying as we go. We do one cast, and it's normally a few packs that die at a time. But you'll see once we get to the map boss, it's really going to struggle to have that single target damage that it needs on these singular high HP targets. We have Bane, but we do not have the links to have a Blight setup with totems or a Blight self-cast setup. Unfortunately, this clear, while good, you will have to spec out of Spellslinger. You'll have to go self-cast ED Contagion, however you want to do that, whether it is low life with a bow. Maybe you want to have the Nito max block with low life. You'll get a +1 wand, most likely a +1 shield on top of that. You'll have to work a little harder for it. But you see here, our clear was great, but this sure is taking a while, even with tempchains to spare Bane on there. We just don't have the links to have anything like Blight or Wither totems here, unless we were to give up our cast on damage taken setup, or something along those lines. Alright, our next build is going to be, of course, Summoner. It's always been good. You see I'm showing this gear. The Convoking Wand has nothing on it. My gloves, life and res. These are all things I picked up on my Summoner practice run. While the belt looks cool, it's really just 80 life and 2 double res. All of this gear, it has a little bit of life. It's got some res just to get me res capped. I found it all while leveling. Yes, I do have a 6-link chest piece showing off the raised Spectre gems here. Let's go ahead and look at those. I will take a few off, as you see right there. But check this out. Vicious projectiles, pierce support, minion damage, raise Spectre, GMP, and hypothermia. Just because I got a lot of green links, you'd probably want Ellie attack damage and some other support links on here. But I am using, as you see, no longer solar guards, but redemption sentries. You see I have some auras here, summon skeletons, Vol summon skeletons with minion damage carrying golem, and an unleash SRS melee splash support setup, as well as a super scuffed to show off how well this is still in white maps, even in a zombie 3-link and a skeleton 2-link. Summoners are still very good. These redemption sentries you can find in a redeemer influence zone, which you're guaranteed to find in one of the influence types that you spawn first. Now you have to find a redemption sentry that you've killed in the redeemer map on the ground. You can't desecrate these guys out of here. You have to kill one and raise your Spectre on the sentry that you find. But before these, you just go Solar Guard. They're still very, very good. These just also happen to be very good at single target. Here we're going to show off a white map with our new Redemption Sentry Spectres. It's like you're being carried by your friend who's playing Ice Shot. With this GMP, with this Pierce here, you see they're just shooting these great big volleys of ice arrows. It really is beautiful. You really are playing with someone, even if you are playing with yourself. Their single target is also very, very good, although you would want to take out GMP for a different damage support. That'll be easier once you have a not scuffed, bunch of green chest piece. You'll most likely want to have Ellie attack damage and maybe some sort of penetration as well. The guide for these Spectres will be linked below. There are a few other Spectres you can do. You can still do slave drivers later on if you'd like the playstyle of those. But I really do like using these new Spectres. It is really like you are being carried by some Ice Shot character with all your little zombie buddies behind you and a few SRS to help out as well with Unleash, so that you only have to have one cast to summon 3 of them. You see the clear in a super scuffed setup. This is a 4-link, remember. I did take out 2 damage supports out of that 6-link chest I had. So it is practically as if you have a 4-link coming into white maps. It is still very, very good. The summoner is still king of having like 0 gear and having a lot of clear. They are the kings of scuffedness. We're going to show off the tree a little bit here before we get into the red maps. It's very, very typical. If you search life in the search bar of the tree, you grab all the life nearby. If you search minion, damage, or minion in general, you're going to grab almost every single minion wheel that you can. And maybe you want a little mana reserved as well. Get a few extra ores on there. Get some reduced mana reserve. Go ahead and pick yourself up that while you're over there. Alright, now we're going to show off this tier 16 plateau. All the same gear. It's all still super scuffed. Our zombies are in a 3-link. Our spectres are in a 4-link. Our skeletons are in practically a 2-link. With only minion damage for our Vol summoned skeletons. And a little bit of Unleash setup for our SRS. And you see, it is taking a little bit of time. Now that we are still on a 4-link here, you may want to swap a GMP for an LMP once you get to this point and you're still using these specters. But you'd also probably have a 5 or a 6-link at this point. I would sure hope once you hit tier 16 maps that you have at least a 5 or 6 link for your spectre setup. Now, specters do tend to fall off once you get to tier 16 maps. These are still performing fairly well. Maybe not as well as you may like, but this is a super scuffed, bare bones setup. No minion levels, no minion damage on any piece of my gear. This is all just gems, gem links, gem levels, and my tree. Now, a lot of people were kind of wary of going Barron Summoner. You can 100% still go Barron Summoner. You can't do the cast while channeling, Cyclone, Spirit Offering, getting all of your energy shield back with the Shaper Touch gloves and Joffrey's chest. You can't do any shenanigans like that anymore. You can still go heavily into ES, heavily into life if you'd like. The zombies are still very, very good. You can craft a very nice zombie support setup as well. If you have a 2-hand mace with +1 gem levels, just like you would with your chaos skill, you get some damage on the weapon. In this way, it would be minion damage. You can get this through the Elva Incursion Temple. These have a chance to drop off of one of the room leaders, and if you get +1 level on it, that's very good. Otherwise, you'll have to buy a minion damage 2-hand weapon, staff, mace, sword, whatever it is. You'll most likely want one for your zombie setup. Before that, though, you can grab a Montegruel's Grasp. This is very, very good. You get a ton of life on your zombies. 5k base life being scaled by whatever percent you have. It is very good. This will give your zombies explode when they kill an enemy, which is also very nice for clear. They get a ton more physical damage, although the number of zombies in total is cut in half. This is still very, very worth it, and it is only in your one hand, so you can still have a shield. You can still have a bunch of other utility here. You would just want to have your zombies in your chest, whether it's in a 5 or 6 link. Your specters at this point, when you would head into this Barron, Montegruel's Grasp, or the very cool weapon, if you can afford that. Once you hit this point with your Barron, Montegruel's Grasp, or in general zombie setup, you would want to have your specters. Maybe you could have these be redemption sentries still, but if your zombies are good enough on their own, you could have a host/carnage chieftain. You want 1 or 2 of the other, depending on how many specters you get. You link these to blood magic and maybe some minion life so they don't die as well. And what these are going to do is they're going to give frenzy and power charges to you and your zombies, which is very, very nice for damage, survivability, and all of that good stuff. You can also change whatever offering you have to something more defensive. You can get a bunch of free block with Bone Offering, or you stick with Flesh Offering and get a bunch of clear. You do have to be a little careful though if you are in these high tier maps. Make sure you're convocating everything on top of you, and all of your little friends should take care of it. Hopefully your gear won't be this scuffed though. Once you reach this point, you should have quite a few more damage pieces, quite a few gems, a few cluster jewels are very, very good. Again, none of these builds have any cluster jewels, which are a huge source of damage that you will be able to buy fairly easily, even though Delirium won't be the main league. People will be selling these. They will be found, they will be dropped, and you will get them and be able to roll them. The second build, of course, it's going to be mines. None other than ball lightning mines. Just showing off the very simple gear we have here. Cast on damage taken setup, jewelry, rings, amulet, belt. It's got life, it's got res. This is nothing crazy. I just wanted to make sure my resistances were capped for these tests. You see I have a tremor rod in there. We are not even going to use the tremor rod for this white map. You're not going to have a tremor rod that early. Let's just assume you barely even have a wand or a shield that's worth anything. Let's try out a ball lightning in a 4-link. Just a very bare bones ball lightning mine build in a white map. Let's see how this goes. You see I have about 4k life. Maybe you'll have a little bit less. Maybe I was a little too charitable with the life here. But you see, even on this 4-link, with just skitter bots and Herald Device, you could probably have even better auras. Maybe you just want skitter bots here. I'm just showing this off as an extreme bare bones kind of showcase for this build. You see here, I'm trying some stuff out. I didn't want to try to throw one mine at a time. We're seeing how it now looks with Blast Chain. Of course, once you have Tremor Rod, you will have Blast Chain as an inherent link in your ball lightning setup. But you see here, not as fast as ED Contagion, but this will carry you into red maps without having to do a complete overhaul of your build. Of course, you can go low life with this. Any spell most likely wants to go low life in the end to get a bunch of extra spell damage, a bunch of auras. That Pain Attunement node, 30% more spell damage on low life. That is a lot of damage. It's almost like a whole nother link to whatever damage setup you have. You can also see here, I do have Detonate Mines on left mouse click. It's a little wonky. You kind of have to get used to it. It's really weird. I wasn't really used to it here when I was trying this out. But it saves a lot of clicking. A lot of people really don't like the throwing, detonating of mines. Here, you give a little utility in the sense that you can't really control as much movement and mine detonation, but it is still very good. While not the fastest, this will carry you to red maps, and it will carry you even in Sirus. Ball lightnings may have been nerfed a bit with the slower projectiles, but that is quite alright. We are going to show this red map off with ball lightning mines and a tremor rod. By the time you hit T14s, boy, I sure hope you can afford at least one tremor rod and hopefully be able to 5-link it with a jeweler's touch or whatever. Even though slower projectiles is being nerfed, it's still going to be very, very good. If it's not, you can swap it out for another damage support. Ball lightning mines mechanically are still going to be very strong. And even if they're not, mine trees are set up where you can become any mine that you want. You can become Glacial Cascade mines. You can do whatever spell you want. It's all just generic mine stuff. And you're going to be spamming whatever spell it is that you have. Now, this is extreme gear in the sense that the only good upgrade I have right now is a Tremor Rod that is 5-linked. I don't have really any damage on any piece of my gear. The diamond ring, really, with a little crit, is about all that I have. This is just to showcase how little gear that you'll need. You know, I do get a little low. I don't have that much life. I don't really have too much in gems to keep me alive. Just a simple cast and damage taken, Immortal Call. But this is still possible. Let's go ahead and skip over to the boss. Now you see, I do have my detonate mines on the left click. This boss, while not the fastest, I do have just the 5 link in the tremor rod. There's not too much gem levels on this either. My ball lighting was pretty low. There is a lot of extra fine tuning you can do here. You can get a essence worm, put your auras in there, or put your aura in there, and you can also upgrade a lot of your gear, a lot of your gems, and making your single target much better. Here we're going to show off our Blade Vortex Poison. We have a few auras here, Despair with Blasphemy. We'll also have Herald of Agony for a chance to hit on poison. But you see again, like the others, most of this is resist some life. Maybe it's got a neat little stat on there, but it's really not much at all. We have Whirling Blade set up. We can't use that because we have a wand here. You could, if you have a Azimite Dagger that gives the +3 levels to physical spells, you could use Whirling Blades there. Otherwise, if you have a shield, you can just go ahead and use Shield Charge. You see Deadly Ailments, Vile Toxins, Blade Vortex, and Unleash, so that we don't have to cast Blade Vortex so much. We're going to try out Poison here. We are, of course, Assassin. We have a bunch of life here. You pretty much go through, grab the damage over time, just like the other ones. Chaos skills, turns out they're pretty good. They scale off of levels, and they scale off of having a bunch of points on your tree, and a little bit of gear helps out when you hit white maps as well. But just like the other one, it's life, it's chaos damage over time, and we get a little bit of poison damage and poison on hit as well as acrobatics and phase acros. It is a very typical tree here. We have a little skill effect duration, so we don't have to summon our Blade Vortex too much. But let's go ahead and try out a white map in super duper scuffed gear setup. Now you see with Unleash, you want to get it to 3. You can see down in the right, it's going to stack up to 3 every once in a while. That's about when you want to cast your Blade Vortex. Now we're poisoning everything here. We hit the rares a few times. Everything kind of gets hit a few times. We kind of like go through. We're clearing fairly well. Now this clear, it's not bad, right? We are kind of killing everything. The rares die. Sometimes you have to go back and hit the rares a few more times with your Blade Vortex. We do have to figure out our mana a little bit. We'd probably get a mana flask here. But again, this build scales incredibly hard once you get some very decent items. And I'm going to show you with just one item later on. It's going to be Bino's Knife. This is going to prolift your poisons. When something dies while affected by your poison, it's going to poison all the nearby enemies, and you get a little bit of life back when that happens as well. You regen 200 life anytime something is killed by your poison. So you're getting a bunch of life back. Your poisons are prolifting. Now, there's a very good flask you can get here. There are many flasks you can get at Ziri's Promise, probably one of the cheaper ones at the start. You can get a bunch of gear here, a bunch of gem levels, and of course, cluster jewels. But this isn't too bad, right? This is straight out of leveling. This is just super scuffed gear here. This is no cool uniques at all. And there are quite a few cool uniques you can get with Poison, Blade Vortex. So let's go ahead and skip out. Now we have our Bino's Knife. We're going to do another beach map here. And you're going to see the power of prolifting your poison, right? You kill something that's poison, it's going to spread poison to other things so that you don't have to yourself poison each and everything with your Blade Vortex. But you see the clear, it's a little bit better here. The poison is kind of going around, spreading to everything. You see I don't have to touch each and every one of these monsters to get them to die with poison. I can spend more time shield charging around rather than kind of going back and forth trying to make sure that everything is dead, because this is a sort of pseudo melee kind of build where you are in melee range, right? You have this circle around you that you need to get near enough to the monsters for them to be damaged. You know, it's kind of like, I don't know, some weird cyclone or something like that, right? And you have to get very close to them in the sense of, you know, range where you're not just casting something and killing everything from far away. So you have to shield charge in, but now everything's getting pro lift. Everything's kind of like bouncing back and forth. You see there, I got a bunch of life back from my Bino's knife. Every time you kill something that had a poison, you get 200 in life regen back. You can kind of just shield charge around. It's a little bit better here. And this is a very, very cheap weapon that you can pick up right away. There are a ton of uniques you can get with this. And this build scales super, super hard into red maps because you are crit, you are poison, and man, does poison really scale into red maps once you get a bunch of gear. Our next build is going to show off, again, of course, an extreme bare bones. You see many of this gear carried over throughout a few of these characters simply just to cap my res and get a little bit of life, at least 3k, 4k life, depending on what you can get. The bow is garbage. My caustic arrow is linked in a 4-link, vicious projectiles, GMP, and one last damage support. We're going to try this out in a white map. We have a few auras here. We have Malevolence, we've got our Flame Dash, and we have a little bit of Curse on Hit with a Frenzy for Frenzy charges and Despair cursing. And we have some Wither totems. You can probably have these as Blight totems with the Blight gem for a little bit of extra damage as well. But this is just to showcase if you're completely scuffing it. Maybe you just have a super bad understanding of this build and you have very, very little gear. But you see here we also have Pierce on the tree so that our caustic arrow pierces through and leaves that little kind of ground there of chaos damage degen. This tree is just about the same as the Spellslinger chaos tree, but I'm not getting spell damage. I'm getting some of those bow tree nodes as well. It's very, very similar though. You get the chaos damage over time. You're scaling your caustic arrow off of gem levels. Most of these chaos kind of skills are very similar, and you'll see when we get to the boss, just like with Spellslinger, just like with Essence Drain, any chaos skill, you're going to want to have Wither totems or Blight totems. You see here we kind of put down our caustic arrow. It's not doing too much. Now when we put our totems down, it's being withered. He's cursed with despair. A single target is not very good. You'd most likely want to take out GMP, put another damage support on there if you only have a 4-link. But that is the curse. That is playing a chaos degen build. Now this gear is hot garbage. Of course you are going to have better gear when you hit white maps with this build. This damage is extremely bad. My links extremely bad. You can do a lot here to increase this build's potential. The last build that we're going to be talking about is going to be, of course, totems. You have mines, you have summoner, you have a little bit of chaos damage. You got to end it out with some totems. This totem is on Hierophant. Of course, it is the best totem ascendancy. Same gear as the other ones. Life and res, of course. We have very, very bare bones gems here. We have an arcane surge set up with our flammability, which is on Cascade. And here we have our totem set up. It's very, very scuffed as well. It's in a 4-link. The links are probably not even optimal. And we have a Wave of Conviction, multiple totems set up, so that we can have everything have Wave of Conviction. You would want to have Combustion on your Wave of Conviction setup. I'd run out of chromes though, and I do not want to buy chromes on standard, as that sounds very awful. And so, even without this extra combustion setup, which is a lot of damage, you know, we're missing cluster jewels as well. You see here, we have some random jewel. We have a lot of jewel sockets that we can fill out as well. I see 3 right there that you could fill out with spell damage, fire damage, whatever you can get your hands on here. But of course, we just grab the totem, extra totem, a bunch of totem placement speed, life regen, charges, all of that good stuff. And you see, no jewels. Our wand had, I think, 10 extra spell damage on it, and it added a little bit of cold damage. It's still clearing very well. You put your totem down, you cast your flammability with spell cascade, so you have flammability circle, 2 extra flammability circles on each side of that. So it's just a very big AoE for your curse. And the clear is not bad. This is very, very bad setup, you are most likely going to have better gear than this if you choose to go totems, and you don't have to go Holy Flame totem. These totem builds are very flexible. Just like mines, you're grabbing totem nodes and life/mana nodes here in this case. But you can swap this to whatever you'd like. With Freezing Pulse, you would change a few nodes around. Obviously, you won't go Avatar of Fire in that case, but you switch a few nodes around and it goes very well. You see here the single target is not very good because this is Holy Flame Totem with the Super Scuff setup. But that's alright. The clear was decent enough here, and this is more just a demonstration of if you're super scuffed and you don't really know what you're doing, this is what it's going to look like. It is going to be much better when you do it, and read the guides that are in the description below. Freezing Pulse totems are very good as well. They're much better in clear than this, and you can scale those very, very well into the red maps. The single target does start to lack a little bit, but that's alright. Hopefully by that time you can get your gear figured out. You can buy a few more gems, maybe a couple cluster jewels, and you'll be alright. Like always, this is not the end-all, be-all for League starters. There are a lot of ways to League start as melee. They're just not ones that I can wholeheartedly recommend to a lot of people. Melee is very difficult to League start as. That does not mean it is impossible. It's just not as free as Spellslinger, Summoner, Mines, Totems, things that people are really looking forward to having an easy League start with. Melee is kind of difficult. You do have to get, obviously, within melee range, maybe not with some of these new slam skills, but do not be dissuaded. You can most assuredly start as a new slam skill if you'd like. You can try out some of the new brands. I personally just don't like the brand changes. It is very unfortunate what they've done. That's not to say that they're going to be garbage. Brands are still probably going to be good. They're just not going to be as good as what they used to, which might feel kind of bad for some people. You can definitely start brands. You can start on whatever you want. Some League starters are just going to be easier than others and are going to go further without too much gear investment. The slams are cool. The brands are cool. The cries are cool. If you want to play them, alright? Don't let anyone tell you you can't do it, unless that person is yourself, dying constantly in white maps. But I don't think that'll happen. Most of you will be able to figure it out. Melee kind of just requires a little bit of brain power. You can't sit there, bind everything to Spellslinger, shoot a wand, and have all the work done for you. You may have to think a little bit, even if you are melee. Alright. Anyway, I appreciate everybody watching. Hopefully these were able to help you out. Figure some League start stuff out. Figure out maybe some ideas on how you can hit red maps, farming all of that super easy currency, as well as all of those cool farm mobs, right? We're going to be farmers this league. We're going to be planting seeds and apparently destroying a bunch of plant monster mobs, getting their life force, whatever it takes. We want to craft all of that cool stuff this league. Anyways, I'll catch you guys next time. Peace out.